And again, I found another video news clip that was worth bringing to everybody's attention. I try to report on stories that most of you don't, but I found this on a school district up in Pennsylvania trying to penalize parents by threatening to take their children away from them for not paying school lunches, the tab. Yet I have to wonder how much money they spent on their their football school stadium that we've seen other stories about. Not a word about that. And as high as property taxes are and school tax levies, there should be no reason that this school can't pay for the lunches of the children. Obviously, these school district officials are out of touch with reality. Not everybody makes $150,000 plus a year. But let's watch the video and you draw your own conclusions.
Students in the Wyoming Valley West School District owe money on their student lunch accounts, but district administrators say efforts to collect the money have been frustrating.
The school system fired off warning letters to parents. The district could take them to court. One harsh possible outcome, children being placed in foster care. Newswatch 16 investigative reporter Dave Bowman is live in Kingston with the fallout from the district's letter. Dave.
Scott, Charlotte, one Wyoming Valley West District administrator said the purpose of that letter was to put parents on notice that the district intends to collect the lunch money that the district is owed. But not everyone is taking it that way. Administrators of the Wyoming Valley West School District in Luzerne County say it's unfair to the parents who pay their kids' lunch money to ignore the debt. The district sent about 1,000 letters to parents owing money, writing, "You can be sent to dependency court for neglecting your child's right to food. The result may be your child being taken from your home and placed in foster care."
Oh, so you're going to take a child away from his parents?
People in the Wyoming Valley West District seem divided over the letter.
Very extreme and maybe unnecessary, maybe cruel, brutal on the government's part.
Nobody should go hungry, and might sound like a stiff penalty, but you should take care of your children.
And pay your bills.
Absolutely.
I think the person that wrote that letter should think about having his children taken away from him and put into a foster home.
The man who wrote the letter, Director of Federal Programs Joseph Muth, tells Newswatch 16 Wyoming Valley West is owed more than $22,000 by roughly 1,000 students. 4 accounts show parents owing more than $450 each. Muth was unable for an on-camera interview today, but he says this letter was a last resort, that all parents who received it were contacted numerous times by phone, email, and other letters. Muth tells Newswatch 16 the school considered serving kids whose accounts were delinquent peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch. The district solicitor warned that could be taken to court as discriminating against kids who may be of limited means by food shaming. Instead, the school threatened court and potential foster care to focus on the consequences of the parents.
Because it's not the children's fault.
Wilkes-Barre attorney Bill Vinsko is familiar with government law. Vinsko says the letter is legal despite its threatening tone. He adds, it's very unlikely a court would separate kids from their parents for failing to pay lunch money.
They're sending them to school. They want them to get an education. Chances are they're well nourished at home. They're just unable to afford the school lunches at this time.
Well, Wyoming Valley West Administrator Joseph Muth says many parents who aren't paying can afford these school lunches. Others who cannot, Muth says, simply don't go through the requirement of just filling out paperwork, which could help. Now, the school district, things might change a little bit in the fall in the sense that it now qualifies for free lunches. So everybody that goes to the Wyoming Valley West School District in the fall won't have to pay. However, the people who owe money, the school still intends to collect it. And Joseph Muth says the district will work out a payment plan for any parent who believes they can't pay it all at once.
This one-page letter sent to about 1,000 parents in the Wyoming Valley West School District is at the center of a very intense debate and growing controversy.
Some say the letter's heavy-handed. Is it heavy-handed? Threatening?
I wouldn't say it's threatening.
So says attorney Charles Coslett, the solicitor for the Valley West School District. Now, the letter informs the parents that the unpaid lunch bills can result in them being taken to dependency court and possibly their child being removed from their home and placed into foster care for basically not providing food for their child. But Coslett insists it is only one of the options, legal options, open to the district.
Hopefully that gets their attention. Certainly did, didn't it? I mean, if you think about it, you're here this morning because some parent's crying foul over he or she doesn't want to pay a debt attributable to feeding their kid. How shameful.
It might be a bit too heavy for some people and interpreted.
Joseph Muth signed the letter. He's in charge of federal programs for the district, which includes lunch funding.
To the point that the school wants to take their kids away from them. No one wants to take their kids away from them or to advocate that, but we were not getting a response.
When I first read the letter, the top of my head almost came off.
David Usavage is vice president of the Valley West School Board. While he sat at the table for our interview, other school board members sat a few feet away in agreement with him.
But I think there were other avenues that we could have proceeded without making it look like, to be perfectly candid, and Charlie and Joe can disagree. But everything in that letter, the only thing that was missing was when we're going to put them in cages and send them to Mexico. And I was a little concerned with that. I really was. That was harsh. I thought it was harsh, the letter.
Found this article that popped up Sunday night, July 21st, 2019 on the news. School threatens parents with foster care over lunch debt. You've seen the videos. Now let's get into the story. A Pennsylvania school district is being criticized after sending threatening letters to parents over their children's school lunch debt. In the letters, the school district said children should be placed in foster care if their debt is not paid. Children could be placed in foster care if their debt is not paid. Really? According to the letter obtained by CBS Scranton affiliate WYOU, parents were told to pay the balance owed for their child's lunches or risk being reported to Luzerne County Dependency Court. Goes on to say and assume your child has been sent to school every day without money and without breakfast and or lunch, the letter said. I want to touch on this sentence real quick here because your child has been sent to school every day without money and without breakfast. Well, how do they know if that child ate breakfast or not before they came to school? They're assuming that they came to school without breakfast. Maybe some do, maybe some don't. But they're assuming that that is the case. And it may not be the case in some instances. This sounds like something a communist liberal would put out. This is failure to provide for your child with proper nutrition, and you can be sent to dependency court for neglecting your child's right to food. The letter goes on to say their child could be at risk of being placed in foster care if the parents go to court. It asks parents to pay the debt in order to avoid being reported to authorities. Wow, let's go over that sentence again. It asks parents to pay the debt in order to avoid being reported to authorities. Wow. The letter is signed by Joseph Muth, Director of Federal Programs for the Wyoming Valley West School District in Pennsylvania. The district did not immediately respond to CBS News' request for comment. Typical. According to WIOU, the district is attempting to collect more than $20,000 in school lunch debt. However, Luzerne County officials said they absolutely would not remove children from their homes over unpaid lunch bills. Huh. Sounds like a letter a communist, democratic, Marxist, liberal would send out to parents. Something Bernie Sanders would do, and AOC, and her squad. I found it very disturbing. Luzerne County Children and Youth Services Executive Director Joanne Van Son told the station, upsetting. It's total misrepresentation, a gross misrepresentation of what our agency does. Yeah. Well, this is how the Democratic, Communist, Marxist, Socialists work, through scare tactics. County Manager David Paderi said the district was not contacted prior to the letters going out. Well, you're dealing with Democratic, Communist, Marxist, Socialist, scumbag terrorists is why. Foster care is to be utilized only when absolutely needed. When a child has been abused or is in need or has suffered a tragedy, Paderi told CBS News. Our foster care system is not to be utilized to scare parents into paying school lunch bills. Our foster care system is not to be utilized to scare parents into paying school lunch bills. I agree, but this is not how the Democratic, Communist, Marxist, Socialist, terrorist scumbags work. As we've seen with Bernie Sanders, AOC and her squad, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. The foster care system should never be viewed as a punitive agency or weaponized to terrorize children and families. The foster care system should never be viewed as a punitive agency or weaponized to terrorize children and families. Vaughn said the county would be interested in collaborating with the school district to come up with other solutions to the debt problem. I have been employed for Louisiana County Children's and Youth Services for 33 years, she said. Never has this county removed a child from home for unpaid bills, and never will we. She's been doing this for 33 years. And these jackasses come in there with their 100,000 plus salaries, these directors at the school district of this particular school district, who you know are making well over 100,000 plus dollars in salary, versus the families of the children who are probably lucky to be making 12 to 15, maybe 18,000 a year gross salary without taxes taken out. Take taxes out of that, you might be looking at $8 to $10, $12,000 versus these county or these school district executives who are out of touch with reality, who are making well over $100+ $1,000 a year sitting on their asses. That's something that the television station should look at, is the salaries of these executives at the school district or the directors, whatever you want to call them. Be interesting to see just how much they're making a year at this school district versus many of the people, the citizens of that community, who are having trouble financially paying the bills of these school lunches. The county is asking the school district to retract the letter. According to the district, a new letter will be sent to parents that no longer uses scare tactics to request payment. Go over that sentence again. The county is asking the school district to retract the letter. According to the district, a new letter will be sent to parents that no longer uses scare tactics to request payment. School lunch debts are affecting families across the country and have recently gained national attention. I'll touch base on that in a minute. In May, after a Rhode Island school district reversed its decision to start serving cold sandwiches instead of hot lunches to students whose families owe lunch money, offered to pay off their debts. And in June, a 9-year-old boy, God damn it, 9-year-old boy in Napa, California, used his allowance to pay off classmates' school lunch debts. I want to hit that sentence again. And in June, a 9-year-old boy in Napa, California, or as we refer to it, California, used his allowance to pay off classmates' school lunch debts. Gee, Gavin Newsom, if you weren't so busy funding illegal aliens, criminals, MS-13 gang members in California, you and Nancy Pelosi and the rest of your communist, terrorist regime out there in California, Gavin Newsom, Nancy Pelosi, this kid shouldn't have had to use his allowance to pay off classmates' school lunch debts in Napa, California. Shouldn't have had to do that. They can afford to support and finance and fund illegal aliens who are here illegally, including MS-13 gang members and murderers and killers and rapists and child molesters in California. That young kid out in Napa Valley, California, would not have had to use his allowance to pay off classmates' school lunches. Now would they, Gavin Newsom or Nancy Pelosi or Maxine Waters? It's pretty bad that you pieces of shits out there in the political world, the democratic world, are this much of scumbags. Because I'm going to expose every damn one of you. School lunch debt should not exist in the wealthiest country in the world. Well, you do. Ha! Bernie Sanders wrote on Twitter. See what I tell you. This is the same son of a bitch that wasn't paying his own workers a livable wage, and then when they requested a $15 an hour wage, he cuts their hours. Yeah, communist, socialist, Marxist, terrorist, Bernie Sanders. Jesus. When we are in the White House, we are going to provide year-round free universal school meals. Yeah, right, Bernie, you can't even provide a decent living wage to your own staff members. And then when they request it, what do? You cut their hours. This is coming from Bernie, communist, socialist, Marxist, terrorist Sanders. Yeah, who's never really worked a day in his entire life. A guy that's created nothing. He's never owned a company, never built a company from scratch and made anything out of it. He's been on the government payroll his entire life. He just thinks money falls out of thin air, out of the clouds of the sky. This is a guy that owns 3 large homes. Yeah, he's going to provide, I like this now, we are going to provide year-round free universal school meals. Sure he is. He's going to raise your school levy taxes even more than what they already are, and your property taxes probably. So how is that free? Notice Bernie Sanders and AOC and the entire idiots, the communist, socialist, Marxist idiots are always touting free shit, yet it's never really free when you get right down to it. They raise taxes. It's not really free, Mr. Bernie, who can't pay your $15 an hour wage to your staff workers. Yeah, that's all over the news. But everything's free with these people, but it's not really free. They love to use that word free and then raise your taxes. It ain't free. If you're paying higher taxes or additional taxes or a new tax to provide something to somebody else, then it ain't free, is it, Bernie? Huh, Bernie? Answer this, Bernie Sanders. It's not really free, is it? So quit using the word free to fool everybody. You're a bullshit artist, Bernie Sanders. You're a snake oil salesman. That's what you are. A gypsy snake oil salesman is Bernie Sanders, AOC, and her squad. All of them. They're all communist, Marxist, socialist terrorists, full of shit.